Republicans are crashing out about the teen birth rate falling, and we need to talk about it. Now, you might think that the teen birth rate falling would be a good thing, right? Like, teen birth rates just reached basically an all-time low. That's a good thing. That means fewer teens are getting pregnant. Republicans are mad about it. Conservatives are deeply concerned, and they are crashing out.
Well, new data from the CDC shows the U.S. fertility rate reached another record low last year, only 53.1 births per 1,000 women aged 15 to 44. So that continues a nearly 2-decade-long trend. Let's bring in Dr. Mark Siegel, Fox News senior medical analyst. I don't think this trend is not going to be a big surprise to people, but the numbers might feel a little shocking. How do you see it?
We still have 3.6 million births a year, but the problem is teens and young adults. From ages 15 to 19, the fertility rate is down 7%, and it's down 70% over the last 2 decades, meaning we're telling people that are young not to have babies, to wait till they're in a more stable life situation, till they're more financially secure, maybe they haven't found the right partner.
What do you mean it's a problem that fewer teens are having kids? People should wait until they found the right person, are financially stable, have the emotional stability to care for a child. Do you know who fathers a large portion of babies born to teen moms? Adult men. Fewer teen pregnancies is a good thing. Do you know who it's a problem for? Pedophiles. So yeah, Fox News is framing it as a problem that fewer teens are getting pregnant. And we're not just talking like 18, 19-year-olds. No, 15 to 19. 15-year-olds are literal children. That's freshmen in high school, 9th graders. And really, they're just saying the quiet part out loud now, because if you want children having children, that's messed up. Let me show you another video I posted also on TikTok about Katie Miller, who is Stephen Miller's wife. You know, this Stephen Miller. Republicans have really been telling on themselves recently. New data about the birth rates in the US just came out, and they are losing it. Why? Because fewer teens are having babies. And I don't mean like just 18 and 19-year-olds. I mean 15 to 19-year-olds. They are deeply upset that 15 to 19-year-olds are not having babies. Katie Miller, who is a Republican influencer, podcaster, and wife of Stephen Miller, who is one of Trump's top advisors, took to Twitter a few days ago to say, since 2007, the teen birth rate has fallen 72%. Hormonal birth control isn't just poison for women's minds and bodies, it's killing population growth. No, it's not. I made an entire YouTube video about this. Birth control has nothing to do with fertility rates, okay? Birth control just allows people to get later in their life without having an unplanned pregnancy, and then when they're in their 30s, they're just more likely to have fertility issues to begin with. It's not because of the birth control. Okay, continuing on. For the first time ever, birth rates for women in their late 30s have surpassed those in their early 20s. Okay, great. So people who are more financially stable and more emotionally prepared to have children are now the ones having children? What's the problem? Our biological destiny is to have babies, not slave behind desks chasing careers while our civilization dies. There it is, folks. If you have a uterus, it is your biological destiny to have babies. Oh, sorry, you have other ambitions? You want to have a career? You want to do something with your life that isn't just bear and raise children? Too bad. It's your fault that our civilization is dying. This is the right-wing messaging. This is what they are saying across the board. If you are a woman who is prioritizing a career above having a family in your 20s, it's your fault that our civilization is dying. You want to talk about women upholding the patriarchy? Katie Miller is doing just that. Because what do you mean you're going to blame women for the fall of civilization? Because we dare to want to have careers. I say this as a 32-year-old woman with a career and a toddler. We can do both. Also, this is not telling the full story. Because yes, even as annual fertility falls, most women are eventually having children. Yeah, they might be having them a little later in life, but they are still having them. So what we're seeing right now is that we are in this weird period of time where the fertility rate has not caught up because the people in their 20s and 30s who have not yet had children are contributing to this like falling birth rate, but they will probably have children. So if you look at these numbers again in like 10 years, we may be catching up more. They're just fear-mongering about the falling birth rates because they have this white supremacist great replacement theory bullshit that they're trying to push on people. That's what this is all about. That's why influencers are out here at CPAC saying things like, we should have more babies than we can afford before we can afford them.
If you're not encouraging your children to grow up and have the courage to get married and have kids, more kids than they can afford before they think they're ready, it is high time to start.
That's why that Fox News doctor said it's a problem that fewer teens are having children. That's why Katie Miller is framing this as women being responsible for the death of civilization and blaming it on birth control and blaming it on falling teen birth rates, which is a good thing. Fewer teens should have children. That's crazy to want more teens to have babies. It's actually good that fewer 20 to 24-year-olds are having babies and more people in their 30s are having babies, because that means that they are more financially stable. These are the same people who are like, oh, you shouldn't use government services, but also have babies before you can afford them. Oh, also have more babies than you can afford. But as soon as you need government assistance, they're out here calling you a welfare queen. It's all connected. Don't let them convince you that the falling birth rate is actually a falling fertility rate, because it's not. It's just a lower birth rate. They're calling it a fertility rate to make it sound like it's a medical crisis, which it is not. People's fertility is the same. People are just seeking fertility treatments more because they're waiting later in life to try to have babies, which is a good thing. Conservatives want to frame it as a bad thing because they want more women trapped in the home with babies they can't afford. That's how you control people. You keep them poor, you keep them overwhelmed, you keep them reliant on a government that doesn't give a shit about them.
Okay, so yep, I stand by all of that, which I already said. But also I want to talk about two other things that I didn't mention in that video. One is that Katie Miller didn't have her first child until she was 29. She's currently pregnant with her fourth baby. She's like in her mid-30s now. But she didn't have her first kid until she was 29. Also, she has a whole career. She worked in the White House and now she has like a full-time podcast. So this idea that like, oh, women aren't meant to slave behind a desk. Girl, you did it. What are you talking about? It is always rules for thee, but not for me. With every single person pushing this trad wife agenda, they are not actually following it. Also, part of the reason that they're so worried about the falling birth rate is because they need their worker bees, because they are, before anything else, capitalists. They care about upholding capitalism as much as they care about upholding white nationalism, because those things go hand in hand. And if people aren't having as many kids, they're not having as many worker bees. Now, I included that Isabel Brown clip of her at CPAC saying, oh, like, we have more kids than you can afford before you can afford them. And that is a common refrain among the right. I was pretty sure that I had heard someone say that before, and I couldn't really put my finger on it, like where. And so I started doing some research, and here's what I found.
Last piece of advice for young people, get married.
Yeah, get married and have a ton of kids. I mean, get married when you're too young, have more kids than you can afford, take a job you're not qualified for, live boldly, stop getting high. Stop doing anything that blurs your vision or makes time go faster. You're gonna die before you know it. Wasting time, it's the one thing you can't get back. I've wasted a lot of money in my life. Oh my gosh. I don't care. I don't regret any of it. Any time that I wasted is really bitter for me because it's finite. I think this of myself all the time. Are they gonna crush me? Oh yeah. But in the meantime, I want to experience my life as fully as I possibly can. And I think that starts with having like a ton of kids, like way more than like Mormon levels of kids. I mean that.
So that was Tucker Carlson talking to Charlie Kirk about having more kids than you can afford before you can afford them, Mormon levels of kids, tons of kids. And aside from the kind of like spooky foreshadowing of this, saying like time is finite, this entire messaging is so crazy to me because it's like, oh, live boldly. Okay, people can live boldly without children. They can travel, they can have really fulfilling careers, they can have family that they care about a lot that aren't their own children. This is all part of the like pronatalist agenda, the subjugation of women, putting more men in power. Because the other thing that these two jabronis don't mention is that they're not the ones doing the child rearing. You think Tucker Carlson is like doing laundry and like making dinners for children? No. Have more children than you can afford before you can afford them requires basically no effort on their part, right? Like what? Your contribution takes 15 minutes? Then you expect your wife to put in all of the work of the childbearing and the child rearing? Like, come on. It's misogyny at its finest. And when we see the women say it, it's internalized misogyny. That is literally like the definition of internalized misogyny. And they can frame it as empowering all they want because that is their framing. They're like, it's so empowering to have all of these children and embrace your femininity and be the woman that you've always wanted to be. Here's the thing, right? They are saying like, we don't need feminism because we already have everything we want. Girl, that's feminism. Getting to choose how many children you want, when you want them, and having that be a choice that you make, that's feminism, girl. And now for like the darkest part of this, which I kind of briefly mentioned in that very first video, saying that like, if you are concerned about the falling birth rates of teens, you need to recognize the fact that the people who father the babies of teen girls are adult men. Those are relationships of 20-plus-year-old men with like children, literal children. So let's watch this video. Please don't scroll away. I'm about to connect the moral panic over the declining birth rate to Republicans protecting and supporting pedophiles. And I think everyone needs to hear this. Republicans love to talk about the declining birth rate like it's some national moral failure, and they always make it seem like the people who are not having babies are like blue-haired childless cat ladies, right? Yes, the US fertility rate reached a record low in 2024, but that doesn't tell the whole story. The biggest changes in the birth rate are not among college-educated women. In 2024, the largest decline in births was for teen mothers. Between 1991 and 2001, the teen birth rate declined 78%, and it's now at an all-time low. While a lot of us see that as progress, the right, the far right, which has become increasingly mainstream, does not. The Heritage Foundation literally has on their website, fertility is significantly reduced for people who delay the age at which they start working, forming families, and having children. The average age a woman has her first child has gone up, and the ultra-right does not like that. But do you know who fathers the babies born to teen moms in many cases? Adult men. There's this idea that teen pregnancies occur because a teen girl and a teen boy had unprotected sex, but that's not always the reality. Way too often, it's teen girls and grown adult men, which, yes, you're clocking that correctly, in many cases is statutory rape. It's pedophilia. In 2015 to 2019, nearly a third of women gave birth to their first child before they were 20, but only 7.3% of men had their first child before 20. So yeah, there's a major discrepancy there. And let me be clear about something. Abortion rates are also down, which means fewer teens are getting pregnant to begin with. There are a few reasons for that. Yes, one is better access to contraception, but the other is that research shows that fewer teen girls are having sex. And I think that's actually what the GOP has a problem with. It's self-serving. They're mad that they, adult men, can't have sex with teen girls without consequences. They're mad that people are finally waking up to the rape, abuse, and pedophilia that is so rampant. And I know people are going to say this is a stretch, and they're going to say, well, Republicans want abstinence-only education because they know abstinence-only education doesn't work, and what they actually want is more teen pregnancies. They want teen girls getting pregnant from adult men. They want adult men marrying teen girls and getting them pregnant. Think about how many of them tell stories like, oh, my grandmother was 15 when she got pregnant for the first time. Yeah, and her husband was probably in his 20s. And they tell it like it's some cute story and not rape. There's a reason progressive people don't want this, because we care about progress. And one thing that progress requires is for women and girls to have autonomy and not become parents when they're teenagers. Yeah. So once again, it's all connected, right? It also all has to do with the dehumanization of women, more specifically the dehumanization of young girls. And this framing of putting everything into like stats and data is important, but we also are forgetting that there are individuals behind this. I mean, the same thing happened when we talked about the domestic supply of infants for adoption. Like, those are human beings, right? Those are people. There are actual individuals affected by these laws and these influencers and these pundits and the things that they say. Like, this is about real people. When they are saying all of that stuff about like have more babies than you can afford before you can afford them, they're not thinking about the like 22-year-old who's in middle America who's having her third baby because, you know, she doesn't have access to contraception or other reproductive care, or because she believes the propaganda that that is what she should be doing to, you know, fulfill her destiny or to please God. Meanwhile, these influencers don't give a shit about the fact that she can't afford her gas. She is struggling to put food on the table for the too many kids that she can't afford. But God forbid she want government services to help her provide for these kids. God forbid she also need to work a job because one income isn't enough to sustain most families anymore. So there she is trying to pay for childcare for her children that she can't afford and needing to go to work to try to afford that childcare to also afford to have the more babies that you're expecting her to have. So there she is, pregnant at work, you know, not able to get the prenatal care that she needs, and her partner is probably also at work, her husband or whatever. They're probably both working multiple jobs and still struggling to make ends meet. And they're reliant on like the goodwill of neighbors and the goodwill of, I don't know, their church or something, because they can't rely on the government to actually support them. And if they do use government services, then they're shamed for it. They're told they don't work hard enough, or why did they have so many kids if they can't afford them? Oh my God. They want to have it both ways, right? They want young white women having more babies because they are worried about this whole great replacement theory bullshit. And they don't want people of color having more babies. They don't want immigrants having more babies because they are at their core racist. And this messaging is at its core pushing eugenics. So to sum up, right-wing pronatalist ideology is so dangerous on so many levels, and it leads to a slippery slope of racism and sexism and everything else that is paramount to oppression and authoritarianism. Okay, thank you for watching. Hi, I'm Ileana. If you're new here, I talk about the intersection of politics and parenting, and I would love to have you follow me and subscribe and like and do all of those things. Please tell me what you think of this in the comments below. If you like this kind of content, please subscribe to my channel, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.